Hello and welcome to Spinster's Library. I'm Claudia and this is my wrap-up for May. I only read 3 books in May, so this should be a fairly short video. May has been a very busy month for me. You may have noticed that I've not been able to post as many videos as usual, as I've just been very busy with my university work. This is also why, instead of my usual 3 small booktuber shoutouts, there will only be 2 this month. Like I said, I've just not had the time to be very active on other people's channels in May. You can find both of the channels I'm shouting out linked in the description box, along with links and timestamps to all 3 books that I'll be discussing. Let's start with the usual small booktuber shoutouts though. My first shoutout for May goes to The Dancing Lawn. And this channel is run by Pauline, and it scares me sometimes how similar our reading tastes actually are. If you enjoy the kind of books that I talk about on Spinster's Library, that is classics, contemporary adult fiction and dystopias, then you'll definitely like Pauline's channel too. She's also a board game enthusiast and has some board game related content on her channel, and as far as I know there is more board game book crossover content coming up as well. The second channel I want to shout out is Erin Go Read. Erin reads a lot of books, puts me and my measly 3 books a month to shame. She reads a lot of contemporary fiction, including some quite obscure titles, and her reviewing style is quite fun and casual and chatty. I enjoy hearing her opinion, especially on those books that I don't get to hear about on other booktube channels. On her channel she also does reading and family vlogs, as well as tags, TBR and all your other favourite booktube formats. Now for the book reviews. In May I read 3 books with an average rating of 3.3 stars. The first book I finished was Das Fräulein von Scuderi by E.T.A. Hoffmann. This is a little German novella from 1819 and I read it as part of my 4 Centuries project. This is my own personal reading project for 2019 in which I plan to read 4 books from across 4 centuries, from 1719 all the way to 2019. And this one was written exactly 200 years ago. This is often considered one of the very first pieces of crime fiction, and it follows a 73-year-old spinster solving a series of murders and jewellery thefts in 17th century Paris. I did a separate review video of this book, so I'm not going to go into that again, but if you are interested in my review of Das Fräulein von Scuderi, then please follow the link in the description box to that video. I will say that this was a fun but not easy read, and I gave it 3 stars. The next book I finished was Pyramids by Terry Pratchett. This is a standalone novel within the Discworld universe, so it's not part of a series, and it is a satirical take on, you guessed it, the ancient Egyptian tradition of building pyramids for the dead. The main character is a young pharaoh's son called Tepik, who has just graduated from assassin school abroad when his father suddenly dies and he has to take the throne in the Old Kingdom. His first duty is to oversee the building of a great pyramid for the previous pharaoh. This is really just a very typical Discworld novel. It's fun, it's funny, it's incredibly clever. It takes both cultural tropes and storytelling archetypes and just subverts them, turns them on their head, so just when you think you know where the story is going, you are made a fool of just as much as the characters in this book. I have 2 negative points about this book, though one of them is definitely not Sir Terry Pratchett's fault, and that is the fact that my book is literally falling apart. As most of my books, this was a second-hand buy, but the fact that the pages are falling out means that I couldn't read it outside of my house, and that's why it took so long for me to get through this novel. The second point is that I thought the last quarter of the book could have been shortened considerably. The ending just seemed to drag a little bit too much for my taste, and it didn't quite have the same energy and pace as the first half of the book. Overall though, really fun read, and another 3 stars from me. The last book I finished in May was The Long Song by Andrea Levy, who sadly passed away earlier this year. This is a historical fiction from 2010 and the first of her books that I've read, though certainly not the last. I picked this one up in a charity shop after I'd seen the BBC adaptation of this novel, which I believe ran round about Christmas time last year. I can highly recommend, if you're not going to read the book, to at least watch that mini-series, though really, you should read the book. The story is set in 19th century Jamaica over the course of several decades, and it's the fictional memoir of an old woman named July. She writes up her life story from her birth as the daughter of a slave on a sugar plantation to her childhood when she's essentially abducted by the mistress of that plantation, through the historical events of the Christmas Rebellion of 1831, through the legal abolition of slavery in 1834, etc. But this book is not a history lesson. It's a very personal story that is told with a good dose of humour and of drama and of heartbreak. We have these preconceptions when we think of stories about slavery, and this book breaks all of these conventions and expectations. This is the story of July, and she is funny and a bit of an asshole and a very unreliable narrator and a fantastic main character. The author plays with the narrative structure of the memoir in such a clever way that I never ceased to be completely amazed by the sheer skill of the storytelling itself. While the book still remained respectful towards the real lives and real horrors of this particular violent time in British and Jamaican history. I can't recommend this book highly enough. I don't really want to talk too much about the plot for fear of spoiling it, but it is a fantastic book. Straight up 4 stars from me, and you should all read it. So that's the sadly very short reading wrap up over. Now for my curated bookshelf tally, in which I count up all of the books that I read, what format I read them, what I'm going to keep, in an attempt to limit the amount of books I own, because I have very limited shelf space in my house. So I read 3 paperbacks, and I decided all 3 of them are staying on my bookshelf. So this was not a great month for the curated bookshelf tally. Not much curating going on here. Finally, my non-book favourite of the month is... I wonder if you could guess. It's this adorable and very silly banana-shaped cat bed. Fun fact, bananas are actually my least favourite food ever. It's the only food I will straight up refuse to eat when put in front of me. But this is just hilarious. You can even close the banana peel for a bit of privacy. How amazing is that? This is a size large. You can get these in different sizes, and this is just big enough to fit one of my cats. Not that they'd ever cuddle up together inside it anyway. Unfortunately, they are not very keen on their new cat bed yet, but I am exercising patience because usually it takes a few weeks for my cats to stop ignoring a new piece of furniture and actually start using it, but it always happens in the end. So I'm sure they will start using this eventually, and until then, this just gets to hang out in the background of my videos. I got this for pretty cheap on Amazon, and I'll put a link to the cat bed in the description box as well. That was it for this month. June should be a lot more relaxed for me, so you can expect more videos and generally a bit more engagement with the community in general. Hopefully I'll have some more time for reading as well. It's pretty chilly here still. Can we just appreciate how it's June and I'm wearing my warm, fluffy cardigan? Bill and I have got a mini break planned, booked, in a cottage by the sea, so if it stays cold and rainy like it is now, then I will have a lot of time to read. I hope your reading month was great. Let me know if you've read any of the books I've read, if you have any thoughts on them, if you're planning to read any of them, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!